Hello again, it's Devin Price, and I'm here with another video version of one of my Substack essays where I read the piece aloud to you, provide descriptions of all the images, maybe talk through any of the links that are necessary, provide captions to things where needed, and give you a little extra context behind the writing. What I'm going to be reading through today is a piece from Substack from last week, which I didn't get around to recording a video of because I went on a whole AI research rant instead. And so I'm going to do the recording of it right now. And this piece is on dating and hooking up in a changing transmasculine body, because I got a question on Tumblr from a trans guy who is venturing into dating queer men as a man himself for the first time, and he is still very much moving through early stages of transition. His appearance is changing and will continue to, and he wanted to know whether he should wait until his appearance has started passing, solidified, become something he's more comfortable with, become something that other men would recognize as male, some external benchmark before going out into dating, or if he should just take the plunge now. And if you've been following my work, especially my writing about sex and cruising for any amount of time, you probably know I'm going to say, like, dive into it right now. Like, if you want to, you can definitely succeed and do numbers and have lots of fun experiences at any stage of the transition process, as long as you personally are ready. So we'll dive on into the piece, talk it through, and I'll read it aloud to you. So this piece is on drdevinprice.substack.com, as always, completely free to read if you would like to read it yourself or subscribe to get these in your inbox. And it is called How to Date and Hook Up in a Changing Transmasc Body. Originally, I had the title How to Date and Hook Up in a Trans Body, and I got some feedback that that's misleading because transmasculine and transfeminine experiences are really different. So I did go around and change that because I'm really speaking to my experience and the experiences of other trans men and trans masculine people. If I wanted to be even more granular and specific, this is dating and hooking up as a trans masc who is dating men or venturing into queer male scenes. I can't really speak to the more lesbian adjacent queer realm, or God forbid trying to date straight women as a trans man. That's something I don't necessarily have any experience with either. So just want to get those caveats out the gate. The subtitle is You Don't Need to Wait, You Don't Have to Pass, Your Life Begins Now. The top image for this piece, which I'll scroll past pretty quickly so that YouTube is not mad at me for it, is a picture of me that I used as my first Grindr profile picture when I got a Grindr in 2021. And it's me in these real, like, fuckboy, soft, long, like, gym shorts with a black t-shirt, and the t-shirt is pulled up just over my chest, so my, at the time, breasts that I still had are visibly hanging out. You've kind of got a lot of under boob action in this photo, and then my other hand that's not holding the shirt is kind of cradling my breasts and holding them up and covering most of my nipples, enough to not set off any algorithm. So you can very clearly see my abs and my boobs from underneath of my shirt, and the suggestion of nipples. So it's very clearly shows that I had breasts at the time. It is a very bro-y pose, a very Grindr pose. You'll see a lot of people on Grindr post shirtless pics. If you don't want to show your face on the Grindr grid, then showing your abs or your nice soft round belly or something of that nature is a great way to get some attention, signal your sexuality, show off your body a little bit, and gets an encouraging response. Believe you me, whether you are thin or fat, I know whether you're a bear or an otter or a twink, I know all kinds of men, all kinds of trans men, all kinds of cis men who post belly pics on the Grindr grid and have a good time getting the attention they're looking for. And I included this photo both to show off and because I wanted to really reassure people this is something that you can put on Grindr if you don't want to show your face. If you are trans and you have not had top surgery, you can make it very clear in your profile photos that you are trans and that you have that anatomy, and show it off if you like. That is not going to scare people away. It's going to signal who you are, where you're at, what your body looks like, and your relationship to your body and your sexuality in your body. And those are all great things to do if you're on a hookup app and you're trying to indicate that you're interested. So that'll be relevant, I think, to a lot of what the question asker from this past week was worried about, that there wouldn't be interest in them as a transmasculine person if they didn't pass yet, or they had a body with stereotypically quote-unquote feminine features like breasts or curves. That is so not an issue. Trust me, there is so much attention that you will get, but we'll get into that further in the piece. So I'll scroll past that lewd, because it's not really a nude of me, real quick. You can look at the picture in more detail over on Substack. How should a newly transitioning person embark on dating when their appearance and identity are still rapidly shifting and they're not sure how they're read by the people they want to get with? Should a person wait to date until their identity feels more cemented, or dive forward, knowing that a ton about them is still going to change? And can a trans guy really find acceptance among queer men if he doesn't pass, and might not ever? These are the questions we are pondering in this week's Sex Liberation column. I'll let the anonymous question asker explain their dilemma. Here's a screenshot of the question from Tumblr's Askbox. Anonymous asked, "Hello, Dr. Demon. I need advice on early transition dating. I've recently started T, and I have trouble trying to pursue the types of people I would like, gay/queer men mostly. I keep thinking now is too soon. Give it 2 years. Your body is too womanly for them right now. Previously, for about 8 years, I have been navigating the world as a butch lesbian, so the whole dating men aspect is pretty new to me as well. Thank you for any thoughts on this." I just want to say candidly, waiting 2 years to start dating the people you want to date as a trans guy is crazy. You do not need to do that. That is wild. Like, even if you were holding yourself to a really high standard of looking somehow masculine, testosterone hits fast, honey. Like, within a few months, people look visibly quite a bit more masculinized. Waiting 2 years is buck wild, but waiting at all is completely unnecessary. There are trans guys who are not on testosterone, who are on apps like Grindr and Sniffies and Recon and Scruff, all of the gay dating apps. There are certainly trans guys who do not pass. And I think we'll get into this in more detail in the piece, but you got to keep in mind that queer guys are not just strictly gay, only interested in other cis men, like super gay, kind of like the super straight phenomenon, super gay guys. There are lots of bisexual and pansexual dudes on those apps, first of all, and also a lot of cis gay men don't give a shit. They do not mind if you have a body that is a little bit different from like the cis masculine ideal. Most of us men do not meet that ideal, whether we're cis or trans. And there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be attracted to you at whatever stage of the journey you are at. The one thing to maybe potentially worry about is if they're attracted to you now and become less attracted as you become more male presenting, as they sometimes say, more stereotypically male looking. That can be painful when that happens, but we'll get into all of that in the piece. I just wanted to say it verbally and candidly, because just reading through this question again, waiting 2 years to date is so buck wild, dude. That is so not necessary. Get yourself off that cross, honey. You do not need to be a martyr, like for the sake of passing by like cisgender standards. Like, no. If you want to start dating and hooking up, you can get people hitting you up today in the next hour on Grindr. I pretty much can guarantee that, unless you're like in the most remote area on the planet. Like, if you're in a suburb, if you're in a small town, you're going to get action. If you're in a city, you're going to get more action than you can deal with. Please don't sell yourself short. You are not too womanly. Your dysphoria is lying to you. I promise. All right, I'll start reading now. Oh, Anon, I am overjoyed that you've written in, because it gives me an opportunity to distill everything that I have learned in the past 4 years of slutty, gay, transgender life in one place, hopefully preventing you and others from delaying your new life the way that I once did. I recognize, of course, that I cannot actually keep you from making your own wonderful mistakes, and I wouldn't want to deny you the lessons of them. I think sometimes those of us who came out as queer later into adulthood project our regrets onto younger and more newly out people, thinking that if we can just spare them the pain we endured, we will heal. But I have also been on the receiving end of this kind of treatment when I was still an egg, or a trans person who doesn't know they're trans yet, so I know that this impulse is badly boundaried and pushy. I will be encouraging you to take full grasp of your new life as soon as possible throughout this piece, but I will also be sharing some warnings and pointers. In the end, I hope this leaves you feeling better prepared to venture out into gay dating than I was, and that you make better, more glorious mistakes than the ones I did. The first thing that I really want to emphasize to you, Anon, is that you do not need to wait to start expressing your desires ever again. Nobody arrives at such a dramatic change in their identity and orientation hastily. You have waited long enough, questioned yourself plenty, and made enough of those damning, practical little sacrifices that keep the life you want at bay. The days of waiting to become the type of person who leads the life you want can be behind you forever. The way we change who we are is by changing our surroundings and actions, not by transforming our insides or even how we look. It is understandable that a newly out trans person believes they should wait until they have their presentation and self-conception on lock before they risk romantic rejection from others, even if it is kind of self-defeating to hold back. For a long while, you'll be party to all kinds of trippy physical changes, from the likely widening of your feet, to the spreading of your shoulder muscles, to the thinning of the hair at your scalp. While all of this is happening, you'll probably be experimenting with a significantly different wardrobe and new ways of thinking about yourself, testing out vocal affects, mannerisms, and names, losing some old friends, adopting new hobbies, and going through psychologically ravaging phases of anger and grief. And here's a link to a prior piece that I've written on this subject. I just came out as trans. Why am I suddenly so angry? Once you admit to yourself who you are and you start transitioning, there's a lot of grief and anger that sometimes emerges, and that's totally normal. Amidst all this uncertainty, it can be tempting to hang back on the threshold of your new life, waiting until you have a firmer sense of who you are and how you are perceived by others before you start dating. But to be frank with you, the average transition is destabilizing for multiple years. It kind of has to be. And so you might as well find some damn pleasure and companionship as you ride the waves. The biological part of a gender transition is ongoing for life. Your voice will still continue to settle for 3 to 4 years on average, if not longer. Your height and musculature and the number of hair follicles on your back and face will continually change until you die. That's true for cis men on testosterone that their body produces as well. Transition never stops. To get comfortable with a transitioning body is to make peace with aging and the impermanence of all things. Physically transitioning is also a meditation on abandoning control. Some people take T injections for years and simply never start passing, due to some quirk of their genetics. For trans men in particular, this is relatively rare. Most of us pass as male pretty damn quickly, but it does happen sometimes. Other people become bears way sooner than they ever anticipated, or discover they're interested in a completely new sexual role than they used to be. You can't ever really know how your transition will settle on you. The way that we figure out who we are is by doing things and building relationships with people. And it is never too soon or too late to start exploring that. Of course, that is only the existential side of the matter. You're also worried about far more pragmatic issues. That because you do not yet pass as male, queer men won't accept you or find you attractive. In this area, I can offer you a ton of straightforward assurance. It will be so fucking easy to get queer men to fuck you, dude. No matter how you look, no matter how you identify, men in general are a population that it is very easy to get the sexual and romantic attention of in plentiful quantities. The reason for this isn't that dick is abundant and low value, as many a liberal feminist sex writer has put it in the past, but because men have societal power that makes them more confident expressing their desire. Unlike women, who typically fear that their sexual desires either do not matter to other people or are in some way wrong and creepy, and are rarely afforded the freedom to practice expressing what they want, men are societally expected to initiate with potential partners and pursue them, and that makes them refreshingly easy to negotiate a hookup or date with. In my experience, this is just as true of queer men as it is of straight ones. In fact, because the power differential between two men isn't so stark, it tends to be even easier for them to negotiate sex with one another than it would be for a straight man and a woman to do so. And this, incidentally, is why queer men have the easiest time cruising and hooking up with each other. This is why we have cruising apps. This is why we have bars where we can fuck one another relatively easily, because there's a lot of safety in being a man and expressing desire to another man. Until now, you have been dating in the lesbian world, where both parties frequently harbor a lot of shame over their feelings and have been conditioned to not voice their attraction. So you're going to be shocked at just how simple securing a date or a bang with a guy really is. You will be drowning in options from the moment that you set up a Grindr, Scruff, Tinder, Field, Sniffies, Recon, etc. profile, and fielding all these requests for your attention will be a great opportunity to develop self-advocacy skills for you. Here I've linked to a prior piece that I wrote about why women often find it so difficult to flirt with one another or to take initiative in their dating life. It's called Why Does Nobody Flirt With Me? How Do I Deal with Social Anxiety? And it's all about the social conditioning that leaves so many women unprepared to shoot their shots and to think of themselves as a sexual agent who can go out and express their desire rather than a passive object who's only approached. If you want to get laid, you just have to shoot your shot, and that makes a big difference. At the top of this piece, there is a photo of me from 2021, standing in ratty gym shorts with my shirt pulled up, revealing my still estrogen-softened tummy and obvious underboob. At that point in time, I had just finished going through a months-long detransition freakout, which I've written about before. The piece is called My Dalliance with Detransition. And I looked physically quite feminine, with a round face, curvy hips, and D-cup-ish boobs. This did not stop my phone from immediately overheating and shutting down from the sheer volume of Grindr notifications I got when I created my profile and set that pic as my main photo. There were men less than 300 feet away in my massive apartment building pinging me that fateful evening, trying to hook up, alongside dozens of interested men and trans people from throughout the city's north, south, west, and suburban sides. I became rapidly overwhelmed with keeping track of and responding to all of these messages. And that is a rookie mistake. More on this later. And I had to shut the app off. Once I went out into the saunas and cruisy gay bars, I was met with the same encouraging reaction. There were men staring me up and down, chatting me up, and running their hands all over my legs trying to get my attention. Dysphoria will tell you that if your body betrays even one hint of stereotypical femininity, queer men won't want to have anything to do with you. But your dysphoria is a liar. As a lesbian, you have probably witnessed the huge diversity of women's sexual and romantic tastes. Give your queer brothers a little credit, too. What any random gay, bi, or pan man finds appealing will differ vastly from what turns on the dude right next to him. And how each of them defines maleness and male-male attraction is incredibly idiosyncratic. What some men find most attractive about other men are hard, pulsating cocks. You'll be hard-pressed to get much attention from a dude like that, if you don't have one. This is fine. You're not going to want to get with every daddy's boy and piss freak you stumble up against either. If some guy on Grindr tells you that you're not his thing because you're not 6'2" and covered in muscles, well, that just makes you like any other guy who sometimes gets rejected and has insecurities about his ability to live up to cartoonish standards of masculinity. Talk to your fellow queer men for a second, including the cis ones, and you'll realize you're all in the same spot. Some men are attracted to masculine energy in particular, and can find it in any type of person, regardless of their physical embodiment. Lots of guys go for the boyishness of early transition trans guys. And this can be a problem if you get into a relationship with one and your transition progresses beyond it. More on that later, too. Plenty of queer men are ardent converts to the worship of bonus hole. I can't tell you how many bi and pansexual men I've met who want nothing more than to get with a lesbian adjacent person or a person who looks like a lesbian. And so you're going to be popular with them. And then there's lots of men whose sexuality is more complicated than simple gender labels or stereotypes, who would have liked you under any identity and will be happy to see you grow and change on testosterone too. These ones are the real keepers. There's also the ability to date other trans and non-binary people that you meet in queer male spaces, too. Whenever I think that I'm the only trans guy in a gay space, or the most clockable one, I slow down, scan the bodies around me, and then I see all the top surgery scars, unbinded breasts, and trans symbol tattoos that I've missed. Sometimes we get so consumed in our self-consciousness that we don't really see the people around us. Now, I can already hear the dysphoric monologues inside some of you listening to this. What happened to Devin won't happen to me. He lives in a big city, he's white and thin, and he passes. He doesn't know how difficult real people actually have it. And yes, I am aware I have significant privilege within the gay male dating market, which does skew fatphobic and white supremacist. There's no denying that. I don't want to be a Pollyanna here. But I speak to you based on the experience of dozens of transmasculine people that I am close with, many of them non-passing, plus-sized, darker-skinned people who do have to deal with tons of prejudice in dating. And they are also absolutely drowning in requests for attention from men. I have seen who gets play at the puppy moshes and in the darkened backrooms, and it's trans men of every conceivable stripe. Yes, this includes people who live in rural areas and suburbs. Yes, this includes obligate tops. There are so many people who want a wide-hipped, large-chested, non-passing trans man and his pussy and or strap, dude. Trust me. You are attractive. Lots of people already feel this way about you. Lots of those people are already queer men. The options are bountiful. Not all of them are good, mind you, but you can still get a ton of experience hitting on people, turning down bad offers, and figuring out what it is that you want from putting yourself out and among them. You can begin doing so right this fucking moment. I promise. Here is a piece I published last September called The Trans and Autistic Guide to Cruising. This is a more comprehensive guide to using the apps, going to cruising bars, and so on. Check that out if you want more. I have already written a highly detailed guide to cruising and exploring the apps if you're trans and autistic, so I will not rehash everything here, but for the newly transitioning person in particular, I have some tips. 1. Be specific about what you want. Do you enjoy bottoming, topping, or versing? Are you curious to try any new kinks? Are you a dinner and drinks for a first date type of person, or do you want to throw your clothes off and leap onto the bed right now? If you haven't been a queer man for long, you probably aren't used to just spelling out what you are looking for. Just name some specific activities you would like to give a try. It's okay if you are curious but uncertain. Just spell that out, too. Keeping your negotiations behaviorally focused works a whole lot better than trying to vaguely describe yourself or what you're seeking long term. So what behaviors do you want to get into right now? Do you want somebody to have sex with you with their penis in your front hole? Do you want to suck a dick? Do you want to make out and roll around? Do you want to get drinks and see where it goes? Do you want to get tied up? Do you want to tie someone up? Do you want to beat somebody on the butt? Say what you're looking for as specifically as possible, and that will help draw the right candidates. 2, be direct. There is really no degree of bluntness that is too much on queer male apps or in the bars. You can tell someone pretty much immediately that you think they're hot, you like their smile, you want to get coffee with them, you want their number, you're fantasizing about eating their asshole, or that you're newly divorced and just want to cuddle and see where things go. Every guy is looking for something a little different, and most of them won't be shy about saying what that is. You can do the same. 3, reject people. a lot. Because queer men are not too hesitant to shoot their shot, you will be inundated with more messages and approaches than you could ever possibly field. Do not make the rookie mistake of thinking you have to entertain any attention that is polite or validating. You can turn someone down for any reason, including temporarily, while you figure out how you feel. Just say, no thank you, not tonight, and move on without apology. It shows the other guy respect and saves you both some time. And this is a aspect of Grindr and other app etiquette that a lot of rookies don't know. No reply is not rude. It means not right now. So if somebody messages you and you're kind of on the fence about them, or you're talking to somebody who you're more interested in, just don't reply to that person for now. You can always come back weeks, months later and reply to their message and say, hey, how's it going? And try to get something going. No reply just means not now. It's not rude. It's not ghosting. It's not abuse. It's just losing your chance with that person. It just means I didn't get to your message. And most people will understand that. It is very normal to circle back and reply to a message that is really old, or to double message someone, because you know if they're on Grindr, they're usually looking for something immediate. And you can't answer everyone. You can't hook up with everybody at once. You can circle back. Most of us are dealing with both a large and small enough dating pool at the same time, where you're going to see the same faces multiple times, but you also have more options than you could ever entertain all at once. So this is all just very normal stuff to do. 4, accept rejection with grace. I have said this before, and I will say it again. Being rejected does not mean that you have failed or done anything wrong. A rejection is a successful consent negotiation. That's something to be proud of. You expressed an interest, the other person was not available for it, and now you know. It is always better to have tried to make a connection happen than not, especially when you're from a group that has been trained to never speak up, only to respond. 5, learn the etiquette and social tools of the space. I discuss this more and provide examples in my cruising guide. I just touched on them a little bit. In a cruisy bar or sauna, it can be expected that an interested man might put his hand on you, so be prepared to handle this and know that you can rebuff him by taking his hand off your body or just walking away. Don't go into a space where it is normal for people to touch one another and then be outraged if somebody tries to touch you. Know that that is part of the etiquette of the space. On the cruising apps, a lack of a reply is not rude, nor is it ghosting. It just means the other person is busy or not interested right now, and you're free to hit them up again pretty much as often as you like to see if anything clicks. Similarly, a block just means you're incompatible, and the other person doesn't want to waste anyone's time with you appearing on their feed. It's not rude. It doesn't mean the person was abusive. It just means, hey, we're not a match. We're never going to be a match, so I'm just going to spare both our time. I'm going to block you. Do some research, observe others, and understand that these social rules are just tools you can use. They're like mechanics in a video game to help you get what you need. It's like the jump button or the roll button. These are things you can use to get around. It may take a moment to get used to the social norms of queer male dating if you've been used to high context, interpersonally rich lesbian dating in all of its sensitivity and emotiveness. But generally speaking, the biggest mindfuck will be just how obvious everything is. If a guy is not into you, he will pointedly look away from you when you try to make eye contact. If he is really feeling you, he will pursue you and not hide it behind compliments about your outfit the way so many of my lesbian siblings do. And when you hit on a guy yourself, which you absolutely should do, he's generally not going to waste too much time on being polite. He's going to let you know if he's into it, if he's not, or if you're kind of maybe someone who's an option but not at the top of his list right that moment. You're also likely to find that men will absolutely melt over your listening skills and emotional intelligence. Though some queer men are comfortable with a tiny bit of femininity in their dress or voice, a lot of them still aren't used to exchanging very much real tenderness. So you might find that what feels like basic dating courtesies from you can make a guy go completely head over heels with love. You're not failing to pass or being female socialized. You're just the nicest possible guy friend, and it makes dating you an absolute prize. And this link here is to a comedy bit from the comedian Devin Glass, where he talks about having had a trans man friend who he didn't know was a trans man. He just thought it was his nicest ever male friend because the guy remembered his birthday and was kind to him. And that was kind of what tipped him off that something queer was going on with that guy. If you have even remotely developed social or relational skills, you may actually find you have the upper hand in dating queer men. Enjoy this soft form of power if you have it, and use it to your advantage. Any partner worth your time will be grateful for your communication abilities and processing skills. Now, there are some pitfalls specific to being a newly transitioning guy entering gay male spaces. One of them that I would like to highlight is the risk of falling in with the opportunistic T-boy chaser. The opportunistic T-boy chaser is a man who finds newly out trans boys, as he invariably calls them, attractive because he perceives them as feminine, youthful, horny, and sexually available, who will not remain interested once the trans boy becomes confident enough to integrate himself into queer male communities or transitions into visible manhood. Guys like this prey on the insecure and socially isolate them. In a relationship, they will guilt, pressure, mope, and manipulate their partners into lowering their testosterone doses, delaying surgeries, and remaining hairless femboys forever. Dating the opportunistic T-boy chaser promises a life of slow recloseting and mounting dysphoria. Here are some warning signs. Red flags for the opportunistic T-boy chaser. He doesn't have a lot of gay or queer male friends. He mostly dated cisgender women until he discovered T-boys were an option. He predominantly dates T-boys significantly younger and or less socially powerful than him. He's insecure about being emasculated. He is afraid of being seen as gay or queer by other people. He is obsessed with talking about the trans boy's changing body in a fetishistic, infantilizing way, but finds actual masculinity unattractive. To be clear, there is nothing wrong with a guy being attracted to visibly transitioning or androgynous people. And it can be a lot of fun to hook up with someone for whom you are the ideal physical type. What's most troubling here is the overall pattern of seeing young trans men as a sexual resource that's easier to access than cisgender women. The opportunistic T-boy chaser is not some bisexual guy who happens to like guys who are short, or a pansexual who doesn't care about a partner's identity. He's typically a straight man who sees a trans masculine person as a woman he does not have to buy dinner for. If a guy is proudly, comfortably in community with lots of queer individuals and he has dated widely of many identities, he is not that type of guy. There's also the matter of dating chasers, more generally. I consider myself chaser neutral. They're an inevitable part of the dating market that can be pleasant or unpleasant to deal with, depending on how informed and considerate they are. Some chasers put their preferences out in the open, saying that they're looking for women, femmes, and transes right on their profiles. I actually do not have any problem with this. As an effeminate trans guy who wears his submissiveness on his sleeve, I'm a proud member of the faggot subaltern, and it doesn't surprise me that the types of people who are attracted to me are looking for both feminine men on the one hand and women on the other. If you're wondering what the heck I mean by the word faggot subaltern, there is a wonderful essay on gender-based oppression by the Cizen System on Substack, and that piece is called Faggotization and the Extant Gender Turnery. And there's a new version of it that she actually just published, Subalternization Rebuild. And it's a model of gender-based oppression that says there's really three gender categories in society. There's men who are in power, there's women who are in not power, and then there's what Susan called the faggot subaltern, which is this nether space where you get thrown if you are not meeting the requirements of being either a man in power or a woman not in power. So trans women are in large part thrown into the faggot subaltern. Really feminine or effeminate gay men are in the faggot subaltern. A lot of butch women are in the faggot subaltern. People who don't fall into society's prescribed gender categories and get punished for that are in this nether space in the world where you're seen as less human, less of a person, and not readable as your gender. So that's what I'm referring to there. So I see myself as being very similar in certain ways to other members of the faggot subaltern. Lots of trans women, lots of effeminate or faggotized people. And so it's not really surprising to me that there are people who are attracted to people in that category. And so if someone is into trans women and me, and they're into cross-dressers or sissies, and they're into femboys, and maybe they're also into women, or they're into butch women or lesbians, that I don't see that as invalidating of my identity as a man, because I know what kind of man I am, and it's a faggotized man. It's a subaltern man in a lot of ways, despite some of the considerable privileges I also have. And that understanding of gender really helped me figure out who I'm really in community with and how gender-based oppression really works. If you're not selling what these guys are shopping for, you probably do not want to date them, but that doesn't make them a universally bad fit. Now, there are trans chasers out there who view us as less human and who revile us and the attraction that they feel toward us. And that attitude manifests in sexual exploitation and violence. And that violence is most often directed at black trans femmes, of course. But there are also just people who find something about trans people captivating for no reason they can pinpoint. And some of them put a ton of work into learning correct terminology and sexual techniques, and they'll fawn over us like we're living angels. I've been on a few dates with guys of the latter sort. They've looked at me all dreamy-eyed, picked up the tab, and held my hand while whispering they couldn't believe someone like me was real. Some might find it othering to receive such heightened attention, but what can I say? I like to be special. If you're proud of your transness, then another person being attracted to trans people won't always register as a suspicious thing. But it's okay if you want to guard yourself. There is a lot of bad behavior and abuse of power out there. I just think there's a little bit of a fear sometimes if you're in a marginalized group of being fetishized. And you see this among the fat positivity or fat liberation space. You see it among disabled people and trans people. There's almost this suspicion we have when people are attracted to us for what we are, because we've been taught that what we are is a bad thing. But there's nothing bad about being trans, so why would there be anything bad about being attracted to trans people for them being trans? There's nothing wrong with being fat, so what's wrong with being attracted to fat people? To find it attractive that someone is fat. There's nothing wrong with being disabled, so if someone finds your disability attractive, that's not inherently suspect or gross. If they use your status as an excuse to exploit you, or a tool they can kind of leverage over you, that's wrong. But if they just find yourself and your body as it really is attractive, that's a good thing, in my view. I think the discussion about chasers naturally invites a discussion about the practicalities of navigating sex and dating while your own relationship to your body shifts. How you look right now is probably not how you will look 2 or 3 years on T. 10 years from now, you will be a completely different person in all kinds of ways, many of them completely unrelated to being trans. There are no simple tips for coping with this. I think it all relies upon self-knowledge, communication, and a capacity to be surprised. Check in with your body a lot. Observe what actually feels good to you in the moment, doing your best to abandon previous expectations or narratives. You might have a story in your mind about who you are and what you like, and that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy and get in the way of growth. So just notice, okay, do I actually still like these things that I used to always say that I liked, or has something shifted? Prospective partners will make the wrong assumptions about you, often based on transphobia and misogyny, but sometimes you'll also apply stereotypes unfairly to yourself. It can be maddening to work for years to figure out what gives you pleasure, only to find out later that it has changed. But this is a common part of the queer life cycle. You can transform from a pleasure top to a stone bottom over the course of your transition. Move in time from otter to popper pig to bear. Who knows why these things happen? They're not just a byproduct of hormones, but also influenced by cultural movement, experience, and age. Keep an open mind with yourself, but firm boundaries with everyone else. Let yourself be pleasantly surprised by the man that you become. And continue to become, honestly. Most of the remaining advice that I have to give pertains to dating men for the first time in general. Keep yourself as safe as you can. Give your date's number and address to a friend before you go out. Take pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP to prevent HIV, and DoxyPep to prevent gonorrhea and chlamydia. If you don't know about those drugs exist. There are pills you can take that will keep you from getting gonorrhea and chlamydia after sex. It's just an antibiotic that you keep in your house. If you have a random sexual encounter afterwards, you take 2 of those antibiotic pills, and that protects you from gonorrhea and chlamydia. If you don't want to get HIV, take PrEP every day or use PrEP on demand, which, contrary to popular belief in the US, it does work for people with vaginas. PrEP on demand does work for people with vaginas. All of the healthcare advice coming out of the UK and the research from there strongly indicates that. But anyone can also just take daily PrEP to prevent HIV transmission. Get your HPV shots, get tested regularly, and don't beat yourself up when a virus does happen, as they sometimes do. This is a link to an article I wrote about risk. There is no safe sex, there is no safe life, is what it's called. And it's about the fact that sometimes we choose to take on risk planning for something bad to happen, because that's the cost of a life fully lived. And there's nothing wrong with that. Inform yourself of the dangers of sexual and kinky activities, and only agree to do things you'd be happy to incur some risk for. So this is what I'm talking about when in that other piece I write about risk acceptance. I go into an encounter taking pills like PrEP to prevent me from getting HIV, but I might still face the risk of getting a yeast infection or a UTI. So I have to ask myself before going into sex with someone, am I willing to risk a UTI or a yeast infection to get with this person? And that's because there's no guarantee that that won't happen. You have to be comfortable with that as a potential cost of the choice. And if you are, then great. That's your risk profile. It really comes down to what risks are you prepared to deal with actually occurring. Am I okay getting a bruise? Am I okay getting nerve damage from playing with rope? Am I okay with the risk of maybe freaking out and having a panic attack? Am I okay with the risk of getting a UTI? Only do the things where you can honestly say to yourself, if the worst, logical, possible, not outlandishly worst case scenario, but if a pretty plausible worst case scenario does happen, could I handle that? Will I be okay to deal with that? Because sometimes that will happen. There's never removing risk from your life. There's preparing for what kinds of risks you can take on. If you feel on the fence about a dude or an activity, that probably means it's a no, or at least a no for now. If you keep arguing with yourself about why you should stop being so judgmental and just give a guy a chance, it's a no. Letting the other guy host the hookup is generally safer. They can't rob your house or stalk you if they don't know where you live, and very few people are willing to leave evidence of a violent crime all over their own homes. So if you're really worried about violence from a stranger, though these things are statistically quite rare, make that person host. Or do a hookup in a public place, like a bar or a cruising space. Those are even safer. Public hookups are safer than private ones, contrary to popular belief and heterosexual fear-mongering. Bring a buddy with you to the sauna or the cruising spot the first time and say hello to the staff. These spaces are precious to a great many people, and they will step up if someone is threatening to ruin them. We keep us safe. This is a photo from Unsplash of 2 shaved, bald, black queer men embracing. They're incredibly stylish looking in these cool black outfits with one of them has this long dangly multi-part earring and a bleached mustache and goatee and eyebrows and a nose ring. And the partner embracing him, his head is turned away so you can't see his face, but he's wearing a satiny shirt with clear see-through mesh sleeves. And they're just gorgeous. This photo is by Lloyd Jr. on Unsplash. And they're against this beautiful kind of goldenrod like warehouse or like storage unit in the sunlight. It's just a really beautiful photo. Beyond that, just remember that queer men are just like you, haunted by repression and trauma, dogged by the fear they are not doing manhood correctly, horny and confused, and scared and desperate to be loved. As you progress in your transition, you will find a growing commonality with queer men that transcends any sexual or romantic connection. Getting close to them will help you better understand the kind of man that you are, and growth into your own trans masculinity will help them better accept who they are, too. And in the spirit of all of that, I have a piece that is called The Beautiful Failure of Being a Man. And it's all about how both trans and cis men struggle with the exact same insecurities, about our bodies being the wrong shape, about not being tall enough, not being masculine enough, sporty enough, about not being found attractive. We have so much more in common than we have setting us apart. So thank you for writing in, Anan, and I hope that you have fun. And to anybody else reading this, you can submit future questions or suggest entries in this series via my Tumblr Ask box. That is drdevonprice.com/ask. Or you can email me questions at askdevinprice@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around for this video. Sorry for the delay in getting it out. I had a big production schedule last week with 2 pieces coming out on Impulse, and that kind of ties up the Pride Month block of content I've been doing for the past month. Almost everything that I published in the past month has been about sex, dating, transition, Pride Month stuff. So we'll move into some other content in the next couple of weeks. Though, of course, I always still have more to talk about when it comes to sex. So keep getting your sex and autism questions in. I really appreciate reading them, and they really give me ideas of things to cover and make my job so much easier. So thank you, everyone, for watching. If you like these video versions, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel to get them and get notified when they are published. If you want to read my essays as soon as they come out, you can subscribe on Substack for free at drdevonprice.substack.com. And I think that about covers it. I'll see the rest of you, or I'll see all of you around this channel sometime soon with my next piece. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening and watching. Thanks to everyone for all of your comments. And until next time, bye.